Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. And now, last week you heard from my pal Gab Bonesso. Yes, she is a serial guest, as I joke, because she's been on probably 7 or 8 times. I should go back and look. I don't know. It's a lot of times, but I love talking to Gab, and I love it. Just seemed really appropriate because she is coming to Northeastern Pennsylvania this weekend for an exciting event that we're going to be talking about this week. And we did touch upon it a little bit last week. But for those of you who are in Northeastern Pennsylvania or are willing to drive here this Saturday, you have to come out and check it out because you'll get to not only enjoy all of what's going to be going on, but if you do want to meet Gab and you want to hear her comedy, and she's going to be, she'll have a QR code so that you can order her album. And a portion of the proceeds, as we talked about last week, will go to Disability Pride Pennsylvania, which does a great deal of work to find equity for people with disabilities and to educate and do different programs. And then another set of proceeds will go to the Humor Therapy Fund, which is something that I started in 2005. And we worked with NAMI last year. And this year, the grant is going to the Boys and Girls Club of Northeastern Pennsylvania, all to spread therapeutic and therapeutic laughter and humor, excuse me. So you heard a little bit last week, but this week I want to share a conversation with the founder of the event that's happening this weekend. It is being sponsored and put on by the John Malvizzi Foundation. You might recall hearing from Nina Judge last, I think August or September, about the organization, which is a nonprofit, but I want to have Nina share a little bit about how that got started and what this event is about this weekend, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it is a great time to educate yourself. And if you have someone in your life who is affected, it's a great time to find out more about resources that we do have here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. And it's a good thing to learn about. So without further ado, and I said I'd stop saying that. I told a friend the other day I'd stop saying that, but I lied. All right, Nina, Nina Judge, how are you?
Hi, Janine. Glad to be back, and it's always a pleasure.
I love having you on. And like I said, I know people who might remember because we do have some regular listeners who are going to be like, oh, I remember Nina. But for anyone who's just joining us for the first time, if you don't mind sharing just a little bit about how the John Malvizzi Foundation came about, what the inspiration was, and then we'll get into this event that's coming up this weekend here.
Yeah, sure. So, the John Malvizzi Foundation, we are local in Northeastern Pennsylvania. As you mentioned, we're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. And our focus is really Loser and Lackawanna County for now. We're very new. We were just incorporated last year, making huge strides in the community, hosting an event as big as this one. But our focus is mental health transparency and really just getting people to talk about mental health, talk about everything that goes along with mental health, the good, the bad. So that's really what our focus is. We try to do this through events such as this one, bringing people together because we're all about community and having everyone together. Um, the foundation is named for my father, who died by suicide in 2021 and lived with bipolar disorder. So, this topic and this foundation are really close to me. I'm very passionate about it. I think we've been so successful because of a lot of the people on our board, including myself, are just so passionate about it because we have lived experiences. People close to us are impacted. So, yeah, that's how we came about.
And before we get into the details for what's coming up here in Northeastern Pennsylvania, if you want to share a little bit about you have folks, if you check out the John Malvizzi Foundation's website, you have this clear umbrella project or idea that you share, which is a really cool thing, seeing through it. And you talked about the transparency. Could you talk
Mhm.
a little bit about that? Because I think that's unique, and I think it's really an interesting and helpful approach to look at mental health.
Yeah, so we have it's basically a metaphor for mental health, and it's a clear umbrella. So a lot of times when you see us in pictures or we're posting something about something that we're doing, um, most of the time you will see someone in the picture holding a clear umbrella. And what that is all about is that it's a symbol for mental health, and that you should be transparent. And the reason that you should be transparent is, if you think about holding a clear umbrella versus a regular umbrella, you're still protected from the rain, but people can see you, right? So you can see them, they can see you. So it's a metaphor that we've come up with that's kind of a symbol for being transparent about mental health, and that it's okay because you are still protected by being open. Although I think there's so much stigma around it that a lot of people don't feel that way, but it is true. There's more people that are willing to help than there are people that are going to judge you. So that's what the clear umbrella is all about.
Yeah, so that idea of like you had said, seeing others and being seen as you are. And it's interesting, Gab and I, every time we have her on, Gab Benesso, she openly talks about having bipolar disorder and her therapy, what she's going through, how that has helped her through the years, how exercise helps her. And not everyone's the same. So I should put in here too that, like you had mentioned, that it's important that people are transparent and that they talk about it to help break the stigma. But as Gab and I talked last week, not everyone's at the same place, right? So sometimes people are really not ready to share their story, or they're not ready to be vulnerable or whatever. But we want to kind of make the point that it is safe, and that people like, behind the John Malvizzi Foundation, people at NAMI, people like Gab are trying to break that stigma so that more and more people will feel comfortable and safe, and, just being able to share their story without fear of judgment or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, my take on that too is, I think when you think about mental health awareness or any awareness, people tend to think about it as the people that are behind the awareness have lived experiences such as myself, or they live with it. And it really shouldn't be that way. It takes the entire community to bring mental health awareness, and a safe space to feel okay to talk about it. Something that I know you just went through, and I went through, the mental health first aid through the National Council for Mental Well-being, is that's something that's really important to know about, because even if you yourself aren't impacted by mental health, or you don't know someone who is impacted by that, or has a mental illness, or may be impacted by a mental health crisis, if you as a member of the community go through that training, you may identify someone while you're out getting a coffee that maybe needs help and no one else would know to help them, or anything that you do in your daily life. So I think it's important to note that when we talk about mental health awareness, or we talk about even suicide prevention, you don't have to have been personally touched by it. Is As a community member, if you want to do your part, take part in these trainings, learn about it, because these are things that can and will impact anyone. Anyone can have the potential to, I know people don't like to think this, but anyone can have suicide ideation or suicidal thoughts. You do not have to have a mental illness for that. So that's
Yeah.
just important to note that it's something that everyone can take part in, even if you haven't been impacted by it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Anita mentioned that's something I went through recently, a mental health first aid training. It's great if you do want to look into it. I mean, I did mine in person, but you can also do it online, a lot of different places, and I'll put some information in the show notes. And as Nina said, you don't have to have a mental health illness or know someone who's going through mental health illness or crisis or in recovery or anything, because as Nina said, the training is all about how to kind of recognize when someone's in distress and crisis, and ways to talk to them, because there are ways that are just not helpful, like,
Mhm.
oh, cheer up, or oh, someone else has it worse than you, or those kind of things are not helpful. So learning the helpful things that you can say, and learning the resources that are out there, and maybe you can, let someone know, or, lead them to it and offer them, a little bit, like a phone number, a website, something. So it is important. And it is, as Nina said, it is something that we can all learn, because quite frankly, mental health, illness, and issues have been on the rise since the pandemic, and it affects so many people. And we're part of community. If you want to be part of the community, then we all kind of need to help, do what we can to improve the wellness of everyone in working in the same community. So, and living in the same community, I think it's important. So, I will put a link to that information. Um, Now, let's talk about, so this event, this is a great showcase, should we say, or great opportunity to do all the things that John Malvizzi Foundation is about, talking about mental health,
Mhm.
educating about it, showing people where the resources are at and how they can access them. So tell me a little bit, wherever you want to start with, maybe even how this came about and a little bit of a scope of what the project is that you're working on.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we're all about community. There are studies, there's statistics. It's not hard to find. You can just Google it. Communities that, or I guess I should say neighborhoods, right? So those neighborhoods that have like that tight knit feel, or communities that do events that bring people together, have a lower rate of mental health issues, right? There's the Surgeon General. I recently had something come out last year about isolation, and how it's an issue, right? So we need that. We need these events that bring people together. And why not do that and learn about mental health and learn about the resources that are in the area? When you look at the schedule of our event, it seems a little all over the place, but it that's on purpose. So the event is at the River Common in Wilkes-Barre City, um, this Saturday, May 4th. And it starts off with a mental wellness fair. So from 2 to 4 p.m., there will be local resources. I won't name them all, but some heavy hitters are AFSP, NAMI, the Children's Resource Center, Robinson Counseling will be there. And it's a mental wellness fair where you can learn about what they offer, but some of them are going to have fun interactive activities, right? It's not your typical wellness fair where you show up and there's this free stuff and people are standing there handing them to you. The people that are there genuinely want to talk to you and they want to interact with you. So, but if that's not what you want, that's okay too. If you want to just learn about and take the pamphlets, that's okay. But if you want to learn more, there are people there that want to chat with you. They want to interact with you. The John Malvizzi Foundation will have our own table. We'll have a couple of freebies to give away, which I know people like. Um, Annie Ann's, a local Annie Ann's, is giving us 50 free either pretzels or pretzel bites. So the first 50 people there will get some free snacks. And our Leadership Northeast that we are working with, it's Team Up for Transparency. It's one of the groups for their core class, will also be there. They've been helping us plan the event. They're going to have some fun games like cornhole and ladder toss to get people loose and interacting with each other. So that first part of the event is really about bringing people together, enjoying the day, but also while learning about the resources in the area, because it's really important. I think there's a lot of people that don't know that these resources exist.
Yeah. And it's funny because, well, not funny, but like, because of my work and what I do with communications and how long I've lived in the area, like I am familiar with a lot of these foundations and organizations who do offer great resources and programming. But sometimes I'll talk to someone and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I never knew about that. So
Mhm.
it is important to have these events so that people can learn. And even if it's not them, as we talked earlier, you don't have to be touched by it in your own life or in your own family. You might have a good friend who's going through something, or a relative or a neighbor. I mean, just having this information and knowing it is helpful because you never know who you're going to come across who can benefit from it. And I love the idea of the games and stuff. That will be great for people to come out and just have a good time, because it doesn't have to all be serious, right? It can be a fun
Right.
atmosphere when you learn about these things.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what we're all about. We're not looking to, um, you know, John Malvizzi Foundation ourselves. We're not looking to educate. That's not our purpose. We promote mental health, and we are our own entity that brings brings resources together or points people to the right resources. So it's just a great event. I think it's going to end up being a great day. Some showers in the morning, but I think it's supposed to warm up for when we're going to be there. Along the river, it's going to be a great venue to have it. And we got to talk to Mayor Brown. He may be coming during that 2 to 4 window. And so that's exciting. And then after that wellness fair, I know that you already talked about this with Gab, but between 4 and 5, you're going to be doing a little bit of laughter yoga. And then we have that comedy show from 5 to 7, which is completely free. Anyone who wants to come enjoy some laughter. And you can probably speak a little more to laughter and mental health than I can, but it definitely helps.
Yeah. And even if you're someone, again, if you don't think, I think it's safe to say, I would say it's safe to say that all of us have stress. I mean, I really don't think I could ever imagine meeting an individual who does not have stress. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, a person might look completely like as loose as corn or whatever expression you want to say, like they're really relaxed, but everyone has responsibilities and different things that create stressors, but it's our response to them. And I'm not trying to equate stress with a mental health condition, but stress can wear at us, right? And our mental wellness, and we
Mm-hmm.
might feel tired or distracted, or all kinds of things can happen. So we can all benefit from something that does help us relieve our stress. And so that is where the laughter comes in. For myself, I'll be leading it, like Nina said, between probably at the top of a 4 o'clock hour, maybe a few minutes after, some laughter yoga. And that is laughing for the sake of laughing, which is, the activity of it or the practice of it to get to the good benefits of it. So it's great because anyone can do it, and it's not like traditional yoga. So I say we won't use a mat. You don't need to wear fitness clothes or even touch your toes. We're literally going to be breathing, clapping, and laughing. And then from 5 to 7, we've got this great lineup of comedians. So we'll be telling jokes, and we're going to hope to make you laugh. And if not, you can just kind of remember that laughter yoga and give us a couple of fake laughs, and we'll appreciate that. But yes, from 5 to 7, we have Mickey Orlowski, who is from Northeast PA. She's a comedian who will perform. Mary Raypatch, myself, Paul Spratt. And then from 6 to 7, Gab Benesso, who is coming from Pittsburgh. Gab is a mental health advocate who does incorporate a lot of her life experiences into her humor, in addition to, of course, other things. So you don't have to think, oh, well, I won't relate. That's part of what she uses in her jokes. But she's a great mental health advocate. She also separately does performances for children to help promote positivity and kindness, and uses humor and music. But she is, let me just tell you this, Gab was here last year for NAMI, and she is high energy. So if you're feeling like you're feeling really low, just sitting there watching her, I think you'll probably get a jolt of energy because she's incredibly high energy. So it's going to be a fun time for that for sure. And as Nina mentioned, it's absolutely free. So that is fantastic. One
Mm-hmm.
thing I should mention, I'll mention it again several times, but like the comedy, this is not a puppet show. This is not meant to be for kids. So we'll do our best to keep it PG, but that still doesn't mean that your 6 or 7 year old is going to be entertained. So I just want to put that out there. It is, if you have a 12, 13, 14-year-old, they might still just be on their phone, and that's fine. But this is not certainly any puppet show or juggling or anything like that that's really going to be geared toward kids. So think older kids and yourselves. Come on out and treat yourselves, your friends, your spouse, your loved one, whatever. It's going to be geared for you. Anything else you wanted to add on that? And then I want to ask you about the leadership's work that they were doing.
Yeah, no, I don't have a ton to add for the event. Just personally, I am so excited to meet Gab in person. I listened to your podcast and I've listened to Gab a ton of times. Was upset that I think we had something going on last year when she was here. I planned on going to see her, but then we had something else going on, so I couldn't go. But she really is awesome. I've researched her on my own with some of the other things that she does outside of her comedy. And she looks like such a great time. So I think anyone who's there, there's no way that you're going to have a bad time if Gab's there. So come out, meet Gab, learn about mental health, and have a nice free night.
Yeah, I think that's great. And Gab, I should say, is very approachable too. So, in addition to just enjoying her humor, if you happen to be someone going through something and you hear it in her comedy and you connect with it, she's the type of person that, you can go up to her and talk to her, and she's just someone that will is a very kind individual and will, share some inspiration, I'm sure. And of course, she will also, as I mentioned, have QR code so that if you do love what she did, you can buy her album, and a portion of the proceeds will help two great causes. Let's talk about, you mentioned that this project, so this is John Malvizzi Foundation sponsoring, but you also did work a lot with Leadership Northeast. And
Mhm.
you mentioned before I hit the record button, but I'd love for you to share more about the work that they've been doing to really kind of see what employers are doing to support their employees' mental wellness.
Yeah, so as I think I mentioned it too, but our Leadership Northeast, anyone who's not familiar with what that is, it is a local organization where they have a couple of different classes, but this one that we're working with is their core class. It's a 10-month program that people can apply to be a part of, but it's like a professional course that where once a month you meet up with the rest of your class. It's usually a class between like 40 and 50 people. They break you up into project groups. And over this 10-month time, once a month you're meeting, and they set up all different types of things where you can learn just professional development. So they take you to different locations, you learn about those locations and what they do. They have speakers come in. So that's like the goal of Leadership Northeast. But um, this year we submitted an RFP and were chosen as one of the project groups because that entire class is broken up into groups of like 8 to 10 people that work together on a community project. So we were chosen by one of the groups, and we've been working with them to raise mental health awareness. So it's something that's out of the norm even for Leadership Northeast to choose, so we were really excited. Typically they do projects, if people have seen them. They help different nonprofits who maybe they need to revamp a space, or beautify a location. That's typically the projects that they do. But this one was, very big and broad, and, to raise mental health awareness. So something that this group has been doing, along with helping us with the event, um, is they have been taking that clear umbrella message and kind of communicating it to local businesses. But then they are taking a photo with these businesses with the umbrella and getting a statement from the businesses on how that business either promotes mental health with the community, or how they support mental health with their employees, or both. However they're doing, however they support mental health. They take a picture with some of the people at the business with the clear umbrella, and then they do a social media post that highlights our free mental wellness fair. So we're getting a little bit of marketing for that. But the goal is to highlight these businesses that are promoting mental health awareness. So it's been great. They've been doing it the last 2 weeks. They have a couple more set up, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I believe they plan to even continue to do it after the event, because their project isn't wrapped up until the end of May. So they may continue to do it throughout May. So if anyone is interested who's listening and they have a business, or they know a business that might be interested in the Northeast PA area, you can reach out to myself or someone from that group, and they'll try to set up highlighting you on social media.
And so they do have, I know, of course, John Malvizzi Foundation is on Facebook, but they also have their own Facebook page, Leadership
Mhm.
Northeast. Is that right?
So Leadership Northeast is the organization. This group that is doing it is Team Up for Transparency. And then I think it says like LNE 24, because they're the class of 2024. But if you search Team Up for Transparency, you should be able to find them. Their logo has the umbrella and everything in it. So you should be able to
Okay.
find them with a search.
Great. And I will do it. Sometimes Facebook can be a little bit wonky, but I will try to
Yeah.
share, copy the link and put it in the show notes so that you can see it. Because even if you don't live in Northeastern Pennsylvania, maybe you'll see this and be inspired for your workplace. Or if you do own a business somewhere, think about ideas with how you can help promote mental wellness for your employees and or for the community. Because think about it, you can always sponsor an event that
Hmm.
helps the community and you can get people to come in. And if you're wondering, well, I don't know how I would do that, well, just think about it. We're all affected some way by and I mean, when we use the word mental health, we all have mental health. I've seen it where it's like, it's not an illness, or I've seen the word disorder, whatever the correct terminology is. An illness is different, but we all do have mental health, right? Our mental health, which is of course another thing we talk about, it is part of our overall health and well-being. It is health, right? So people tend to, you hear about diabetes a lot, high blood pressure. Well, people don't really have the stigma so much around that. But when it comes to mental health, sometimes there's still this kind of shush or whatever, or people don't want to
Hmm.
say it out loud, but it is part of our health and it does impact all of us. So, maybe you'll get inspired when you see what these businesses are doing, and they might give you some ideas, which would be great. Is there anything else? I think that's wonderful. But let me ask you, of course, I would love for you to share anything else that you think is important for everyone to know. But I'd like to just ask you, so obviously I know what the John Malvizzi Foundation is about, and you're thrilled to do this and partner with this group, but why is it so important that these businesses share what they're doing? And why is it important for the community to know about that?
I mean, personally, I think for a business or any individual organizations, but if we're talking about organizations and them sharing how mental health is important, is that it may show individuals that really don't know how to relate mental health because maybe they don't struggle with mental health or they don't know anyone who struggles with a mental health condition, is that if an organization is kind of showing how they support it, it may open someone's mind to, oh, I didn't realize that that was even mental health. Some organizations that just offer flexible schedules for their employees, you don't think of that because you think, oh, well, that's just great for their employees to be able to figure out their work schedules, but that has a mental health component. A work life balance is important. So even an organization that offers that, and that's something that they say that they do, that's relatable to mental health. Time off is relatable to mental health. So it's important for these larger organizations to get behind it, but also just share how they support it, because it will help break the stigma, and it will help people realize that there are so many things in all of our daily lives that are related to mental health that we don't even realize.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I think back before thankfully we are, I feel like making progress because we are definitely talking more about mental health than we have in the past. But I remember when I worked for Blue Cross in the early 2000s, and we would say, oh, I'm taking a mental health day
Mm-hmm.
before, and it wasn't really how we talk about it now, but really, and it wasn't meant to mock anybody, but it really was that. It was, I'm not sick, as in I don't have a cough, but I'm feeling like I need a break, and then
Yeah.
we used to talk about it that way. And that's still the case. It is, as you said, so important. Work-life balance is key. And employers who get that right, I think are definitely much more appealing to people to work for them.
They're appealing, and I think it's important for employers to even understand that that's a benefit to the employer, right? You want employees that are mentally healthy, that because they're more productive, they're happier at work. So yeah, I mean it's a benefit all around.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's a great point. Not just appealing there, but to the benefit. I mean, and let's face it, I'm not saying this to be like a Debbie Downer, but it is all about the profits when it comes to business.
Yeah.
And how can you be profitable if you don't have employees showing up, or if they're showing up in a way that's not really working? You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
there, but they're not really doing the work because they're not feeling great or they're not feeling appreciated or anything like that. So when you show them that you appreciate them, then you'll get the dollars that you want, which is what business is about, right?
Yeah. And I mean, another thing, I guess, to add as to why it's important for organizations to put mental health first is when you think of the average person who works full time, that's 40 hours a week. It's something that people say, but it's true is if you have a full time job, you typically spend more time at work than you spend with your own family. So it's important for employers to be open-minded about mental health and put that first, because your employees are number one. They're the ones that are keeping your business running. So it's a benefit to those employees, but as an organization overall, because
Yeah.
you can make the biggest impact. If we work full time, we're there most of the time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's hey, where you're spending time is it's that's pretty important because imagine if it's the opposite, if it's a toxic work environment, and you don't provide that support. Imagine what that is doing to someone's mental health and their wellness overall. That could be very damaging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other details or points that you would want to make as we close up here?
I don't think so. I think we touched on everything. I could probably talk about this topic for 4 hours and not run out of things to talk about. So, we talked about the event. We, as an organization, we're currently working on some things that I won't dish out because they're in the very early stages. But we are constantly working on writing up different projects. Because we've been successful as far as fundraising and being able to get support from some of these heavy hitters. So more to come. And the only other thing that will be coming up this year that we know for sure is our annual golf tournament. It'll be the second one in September. So people can look out for that. Maybe I'll be on here talking about it later in the year. We'll see. But more to come from us. And then this community event, we're hoping for it to be something that we can do every year. It's not one and done. Obviously, this one will be a learning experience on what works, but we want to be able to do this every year. So,
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's important that to say, it's a learning experience. So for folks out there who want to try something or organizations who do, we talk about Gab and I have talked a lot about giving grace, and you have to give grace to like events too sometimes because it
mhm.
is a learning experience. So you don't know like next time will it be indoors or outdoors and where will it be located? And so this is an opportunity. So have like some patience when you come out if things don't go exactly or like, oh, well, I would have done it differently. Well, that's okay. It's the first time
Yeah,
out. And at the end of the day, what is the most important thing is the community connection, the resources that are there, all of us who are going to be there to help share something that's positive and of value. And I know that's going to go off without a hitch. Just us sharing and people coming out to connect. That's a success right there.
yeah, definitely.
And as I close up, I just want to kind of call back to what Nina had mentioned. It was actually, so what we're in 2024, this was 2023. Nina referenced the US Surgeon General did talk about the importance of connection. And that is something that you'll hear about even with NAMI. They talked about it this year with their Evening of Hope, hope through community connection, because basically in the Surgeon General's report, he was saying how damaging isolation can be. And I do know a lot of people who are, they like to stay home, let's say, and they're more maybe they're just not real extroverts or whatever, and I get that, I really do. But if you can try just once in a while, even if it's just one person and you don't like crowds, connection is key, because basically in his report he was saying that isolation they're looking at could be considered as damaging as something like smoking or obesity. So I hate to like channel Barbara Streisand, and no, don't worry, I'm not going to sing, but people people who need people, right? I mean, we do at the end of the day, need people. And yes, there are a lot of jerks out there, but there are also a lot of really wonderful people. So if you can find a way to, if you are a shy person, just, maybe just reach out to one person and maybe your best buddy and go, all right, let's check this out. And if you get there and it's overwhelming, then just try it for a few minutes and then maybe next time you'll stay a little longer. But at the end of the day, connection is is just really important, and it does provide a lot of benefits. And I will share with you, as someone who does lead laughter yoga, who does comedy, and I've joked before about the whole introvert extrovert thing. I can tell you there are many times I do not want to do what I'm about to do.
Mhm.
You know, I'm like, I am not in the mood to do this tonight. I'm not in the mood to perform. I'm not in the mood to do this or to go to this networking event. And I will tell you 99.999% of the time when I get finished and I'm home, I'm like, boy, do I feel glad I went. And I feel physically better. I literally am lifted by the conversations I've had, the laughter that I've shared, and just feel 100% like just really good.
Yeah, and I know you always like to talk about networking, typically in a lot of your podcasts, and how important that is. And networking doesn't have to be in person either. I'll talk about how you and I met. I think I just reached out to you on LinkedIn. We didn't have. I think I followed you because I followed Nami, and you might have had Marie on. I don't remember exactly how, but I started following you through other people, and then I took a chance and I reached out to you. So it's really important to make different connections with different people, whether it's virtual or in person.
Yeah. And you know what? That is a great point. I was mentioning about breaking through the barriers and getting out, but that's a great way to start. Or if you are someone who really doesn't want to do as much in person, you can absolutely, as Nina said, reach out to people on LinkedIn. If you're following them and you're like, wow, I love what that person's doing, or I'd love to learn more of the resources they have so that it could help my life and I can help other people. Send a message. I mean, yes, there are people who may not answer, but most times people will answer. And
Hmm.
you could, even if you are someone who doesn't love the in person, you could start a Zoom group. You could have a group of people who get together. I know other comedians, women in the Lehigh Valley area, once a month or once every few months, they'll get together and do like a little writing exercise together on Zoom. And it's a way to connect. You're still seeing faces and you're talking and you're sharing support and guidance and information. So that's a great point, Nina. Thank you that you can do it virtually as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, Nina. And I wish you the best with this event. Of course, I will be there to
yeah,
see, and I am thrilled and honored to be part of it. And I'm so happy. Laugh to Live, my business, is a proud sponsor of this event. And I hope to continue to be involved with more projects with you in the future because I think it is so important what you're doing and the conversation that you're leading.
yeah. Thank you for having me on again, and I will give you a huge shout out and thank you because you did a lot of the comedy bit. I did not have to solicit anyone but you, and then you put together the rest of, you connected me with Gab, and then you got the other comedians together. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I love the performers. Now, I mean, Gab, of course, is from outside the area, but I think we also have great talent here. And anytime I can get folks together who can share their craft, doing what they love to do and helping people laugh, and especially for a great cause and a great reason like this, it's fantastic. So
Yeah.
absolutely. So thank you so much. And to my listeners, I'll be honest, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is coming up in the next few weeks? I have ideas. I have people that I've reached out to that I still have to schedule with because as I mentioned last week, I cannot wait to go visit my pal in North Carolina, Oliver. So I want to try to have a couple of podcasts recorded before I head down there, but I will leave you in suspense. I'm not quite sure what's coming up in the next few weeks. So guess what? You're going to just have to come back to find out. But in all seriousness, as I always say, it is so important that, supporting the little guy and gal is just really important and appreciated. So check out the show notes. I will have a link to the John Malvizzi Foundation website. Information, of course, if you follow me on social media, Funny Wine Girl Janine, Facebook, Instagram. Of course, I'll be posting the heck about this event and showing some photos and highlights throughout the day and afterwards. And I should mention Sunday, the day after this event, May 5th, is World Laughter Day. So Dr. Kataria, who started this whole movement of laughter yoga, started World Laughter Day. A nice idea of us just trying to do something together as a global effort to do something positive and healthy and healing. So I'll be leading some laughter yoga on Sunday, May 5th. I believe I'm doing it at 9, 11, and 2 p.m. on my Facebook page, Laugh to Live. Check that out. And I say believe only because my brain has like a big pie chart of different things, and I just can't quite see that pie chart in my head right now, that sliver. But check it out, and I will try to put as much information as I can in the show notes so that you can get value about what's going on Saturday, and to follow the leadership team and what they're showing about organizations and businesses and what they're doing for mental wellness, because I think it's important, and you never know how you might be inspired by that. So, as I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.